So Maurizio, we've actually got 103. So I think we should start
Yes.
with your webinar. So first, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It's a great pleasure to have you on our HITRIplus Seminar. Second time, by the way. You're very honored because you're the only one who's done it the second time. But just to say that we were discussing earlier that our HITRIplus project is coming to an end at the end of March. And Maurizio also formally retires, not really, but formally retires from CERN end of March. So it's very well organized and synchronized. And I've asked Maurizio to look into his, crystal ball and tell us about accelerators for cancer therapy, emerging trends and future perspectives. I don't think he needs any introduction because I think we all know him anyway. So Maurizio, the floor and the Zoom is yours. Virtual space, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Manjit, for your invitation for maybe one of the last seminars of HITRIplus. And also this will give me will give me the opportunity. Do you see the slides full screen?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we give me the opportunity to say to summarize a bit of where we stand with the accelerators for cancer therapy. And I wanted to give you the broad picture, not only accelerators for ion therapy. So if you are, with my apologies, I will go a bit beyond the HITRIplus and give you, say, the global idea of where we are with all the different ways to use accelerators for cancer therapy. And you see that from this slide that there are many ways, and actually hadron therapy is only the top right corner of this big picture. Because also we can, of course, treat cancer with protons and ions, but also electrons. And then there are now new emerging trends of using electrons for it. Then, of course, the workhorse of cancer therapy, radiotherapy nowadays are X-rays that are also produced by an accelerator. Neutrons are also there is more and more interest in neutrons, boron neutron catch-up therapy. And of course, you can produce activity on a target with an accelerator and then move it to the patients and use radioisotopes made with accelerators for imaging and therapy, up to diagnostics, which is also a keyword for the future of cancer therapy. So you see very many applications and many interactions between all these applications that we will go through. So anyhow, so in terms of numbers, what is interesting is that there are nowadays about 70,000 accelerators used for radiotherapy, for X-rays. And if you add up the few used for hadron therapy and the 1,700 used for radioisotope production, we come to about 20,000 machines. Healthcare is the largest user of particle accelerators. So it's not CERN, it's not particle physics. I mean, you and healthcare is the major user of particle accelerators, 40% of the total. And these are exciting times for advanced radiotherapy and also for nuclear medicine, driven by particle accelerators. So if you talk in particular about particle therapy of cancer, I mean, there is a lot of progress now pushed, but new evidence, new projects, new treatment modalities, and this is also driving the large increase in the number of facilities. So this plot is updated only to end of 24, so it's 1 year late, but still, I mean, you see how many, there is kind of a linear trend in both proton therapy facilities and carbon therapy facilities in operation or in construction, because worldwide, at a trend of about 8.5 new proton machines per year and a bit less than 1 carbon facility per year. So a great success, and what is behind it? So first of all, new clinical evidence. So I think that we have all been excited by learning of the results of this study that was published on Lancet in December, showing a significant improvement in survival rate and reduced toxicity in head and neck cancers after a phase 3 clinical trial. And new clinical trials are expected. So this was it's a milestone in the use of particles to treat cancer. Then there are many construction projects going on. So in the USA, is in construction the first carbon ion therapy center at Mayo Clinic in Florida. In Europe, Normandy Hadron Therapy is building in Caen, France, a large carbon and multi-ion therapy center based on on a cyclotron. And very important, in Spain, the Amancio Ortega Foundation, we know well, is now funding the installation of 10 new proton accelerators in public hospitals. If I look at the PTCOG database of new projects, it lists 28 proton or carbon ion facilities under construction at the end of last year. So it's really a great moment for particle therapy. And also there are many new treatment modalities under study: multiple ions, radioactive ions, new ions, mini microbeams, rotating chairs, and of course flash, which is there are many expectations about flash. And we will see what it happens, but definitely there is a lot of interest now in the new treatment modalities. Not only, but accelerators are also extending their reach. Boron neutron capture therapy, more and more facilities in preparation. New targeted therapies, radioisotopes are also on the rise. So an interesting trend, but I think that from my point of view of somebody who is not a clinician, I'm only a poor physicist. I mean, there are two words that are very important in this slide, and those are in red. So first of all is that the new clinical evidence shows an increase in the survival. So far, I mean, particle therapy is always presented as a way to improve quality of life. So somehow was labeled as a kind of medicine for the rich people. Now it's important that it has been shown that it is not only improving the quality of life, it's really survival that is improved by the use of particle therapy. This is very important. And it's very important the fact that in Spain, this program is going to public hospitals. So particle therapy is getting out of the privileged clinics for some people, so a small fraction of the population, and now it's going to normal treatment, become a standard treatment in public hospitals. And this, to me, it's a great step that I'm glad that I have seen in the last really few years. Okay, so what about these facilities? So the accelerator, of course, is very important, is at the heart of the system, but it's not all. So a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of visiting the Cyclotron Medical Center at Bern, next to the Bern Hospital. You see it at the left bottom of my slide, and the cyclotron is very small here. It's only 2.5% of the surface of the facility. All the rest is very sophisticated. We have beam lines, workshops, radiochemistry rooms, physics laboratories. So the accelerator is very important, but it's only a small part of the facility. The same if you look at Medaustrom. Medaustrom, for a typical carbon ion therapy center, the ratio is a bit more in favor of the accelerator. It's about 10% of the facility, but it's always a small part. Something also that I have learned after these years in HITRIplus and also working with this community is that we need a holistic approach. We need to work together, and we don't have to build we build the best accelerator. We have to build the accelerator that better fits the needs of the clinicians. And this is something that I think is very important to keep in mind in the future, a lesson for the future. Now, concentrating a bit more on the accelerator side. On the accelerator, it is important to say that if medicine is moving fast, accelerator technology is not standing still. So there is in the last years a big progress in the technology for accelerators. This is driven by the needs mainly of particle physics, because the particle physicists would to build the successor to the Large Hadron Collider. The main project is this 91-kilometer future circular collider, which is a machine with a strong impact on the environment, a large footprint, and there are many ideas and initiatives on how to minimize the impact on the environment of the machine, to possibly reduce footprints with other accelerator designs. There is a lot of work going on reducing energy consumption of accelerators. All work that has a target the machines for particle physics, but will have a strong impact also on accelerators for medicine. So we are going to have in the future hopefully a new generation of accelerators that will profit of all the technologies that are now being developed in these years, these days, I mean, really for particle physics. And all these technologies are aimed at making accelerators more sustainable, but reducing their environmental and financial footprint. Because also the cost of these machines, of course, is an important, let's say, factor to take into consideration in the development of the technologies. So a lot of innovations First of all, I want to speak about superconductivity. Superconductivity, which is there since many years already now. Most of our proton therapy machines are superconducting cyclotrons. So superconductivity is there, but this is the conventional superconductivity of niobium titanium. Niobium titanium technology is around since many years, has been used extensively in the Large Hadron Collider, but there are now different directions being explored, how to increase the reach, to extend the reach of superconductivity. For the colliders, the goal is to get the highest possible magnetic field, because the highest the magnetic field, the smaller your machine, which is also the case for medical machines. And the directions are going to different type of conductors. After niobium titanium, the next step is going to niobium-13, which is used now for ITER, for the fusion facility in France, and is going to be used for the upgrade of the Large Hadron Collider. But niobium-13 can allow an increase of only 30%, 50% of the magnetic field. But the real change, the real disruptive technology in this sense will be the use of high-temperature superconductors. High-temperature superconductivity is not yet there. I mean, you know, high-temperature superconductivity is a relatively recent discovery, as in the days of the 80s. And it is more and more used, but not yet in large operational environments. Apart some examples, and the most quoted example is really in the medical field, because MRI now, many MRI machines use high-temperature superconductivity. So it's something that would allow an increase by more than a factor of 2 in the operating magnetic field, and it's something that is part of a large program for development of superconducting technologies. So I promised not to speak about money, but I have only one cost, one figure in my slides, which is the fact that CERN now invests 18 million Swiss francs per year only the development of high field magnets. And this money is complemented by a similar contribution from partner laboratories. So there is now in Europe a huge work going on to develop new superconducting technologies that will definitely benefit also the medical field. In particular, if you speak about high-temperature superconductors, you see those are materials that are basically copper oxides that are superconducting already at the temperature of the liquid nitrogen. And this is a huge advantage because nowadays superconductors are cooled with liquid helium. Helium is becoming expensive, difficult to find. You work at 4.5 Kelvin, which means, I mean, a large cryogenic installation. Instead, if you work only at 77 Kelvin, it's a completely different story. The cryogenic is much easier and simpler, and you can use liquid nitrogen that is basically everywhere. It's very easy to get. And high-temperature superconductors can be used in two modalities. Either you use it to get the highest possible magnetic field. This is the case of the colliders at low temperature. Or you can, if instead you work at liquid nitrogen temperature, you cannot reach very high fields, but you are very efficient. So you save a lot of energy with respect to conventional superconducting magnets. So this is a really big advantage, but the difficulty is that is mainly at the moment mechanical, because these high-temperature superconductors are rare earths, and they come in the form of powders. So it's just, and this powder is just it's spattered on a thin layer, and then they make a tape with multiple layers. You see here, bottom right, that it's quite complex, expensive to make, and then the result is that you make tapes that are difficult to use to make coils. I mean, mechanically, it's not so easy. So the high-temperature superconductors are progressing faster, and not only, but their price is going down very, very quickly. And this thanks not to particle accelerators, but to compact fusion reactors that plan to use extensively high-temperature superconductivity. And the price that was very, very high in the past, in the last year, went down to about $20 per meter. you have to consider to make a magnet, you need kilometers of this tape. So anyhow, requires an investment, but still, I mean, it's a great improvement, and the price is still going down. So somebody usually gets some questions about using rare earth. What is our dependence for the material procurement? Actually, in terms of quantities for these tapes, you need very, very little. And any type of rare earth works. In the case of the tape that we use in Europe, it's mainly yttrium that is used. So the cost and impact is not so much on the rare earth material, is in the process, the production cost. And this is why production is going to reduce the price. And this type of tapes, as well as conventional iobium titanium conductors, you can use to make prototype magnets for medical machines. And I'm very proud of showing you the results of Work Package 8 of IFAST and of HITRIplus that, under the leadership of Ernesto De Matteis of INFN Milan, has produced now 3 demonstrator magnets for medical synchrotrons. So you see, these are short, 1 meter long, let's say, superconducting magnets made of a particular type that is called canted cosine theta. Basically, there are 2 cylinders, one inside the other, with some conductors at 45 degrees. And believe me that adding up the field of these 2 layers, the result is a dipolar field in the dipole. You see they made 3 demonstrators. The first is combined function, so dipole and quadrupole in the same magnet. The second is in the high temperature superconductors. And you see here how difficult it is to roll these tapes on the support, on the grooves of the support to make this type of magnets. So they're very proud here in this picture. And the third one is a curved CCT that is part of the HITRIplus program. So the next step now will be to compare, to measure these 3 prototypes, then come to a conclusion on which technology to choose for the full-scale prototype magnet that we would like to produce, still to be funded. We don't know who and how this can be paid. Yes, but definitely there is the interest of doing it. And of course, I am very much in favor of high temperature superconductivity. But there is another option that is worth exploring, again using high temperature superconductivity, that is hybrid magnets. The limitation with this type of superconducting magnets made with conventional conductors is the ramping time. So they need time to go up in field and then go down and then go up. So in a synchrotron, you have to cycle the field. So you need some time, and you can operate at a maximum of, you need about 10 seconds from one pulse to the other, which slows down a lot the treatment times. So, of course, you can do multiple energy extraction. There are ways, but still, the limitation is in the ramping time of the magnets. If you instead make and keep an iron core and use superconducting coils outside, possibly in high temperature superconductors, then you get a magnet that is cheap and has a fast ramping time, 1 second, comparable between pulses. That is comparable to what you get now with a conventional magnet synchrotron. So, and there are now in Europe 2 initiatives working in this direction. At GSI, they have worked on winding of HTS cables, actually making a cable out of a tape. And you see this is a kind of a complex tapestry that they make with HTS tapes to roll them to make a cable around a circular conductor. And then at CERN, we came to the design of a superferric magnet that we hope to assemble, we hope to assemble a prototype, again, to be funded. We are looking for funding for that, because we have found an old magnet laying around at CERN, about with exactly the same size, same dimensions, and it will be relatively easy to take out, remove the old normal conducting coil and make a new one in high temperature superconductivity. All these are things that now are conceivable because of the accessible cost of this type of conductors. Okay. So I was talking about opportunities. Number one is superconductivity, but number two is artificial intelligence. So there is a lot of work going on in the accelerator community, and there are many ways why this can have an impact on medical accelerators. So there are basically four factors for fields. First of all, AI can be used to optimize the design. So you can optimize the design of your machine. You can simplify the operation, coming up to automate setting up, automate quality assurance, automate the operation of the accelerator. You can use it to improve reliability and availability, early detection of faults from special algorithms that will tell you what is going on with your machine, when is the moment to make an intervention, to do more and more of preventive maintenance, thanks to artificial intelligence. And then specifically for medical machines, reduce treatment times. There's a lot to gain, integrated treatment planning and online radiography with accelerator setting. And this is something that really new perspectives that will open thanks to AI and machine learning. So, so not only we can hope in have a better patient throughput, but also we can think of a change in a business model, because now, I mean, particle therapy accelerators are sold often with long and expensive operation and maintenance contracts. So the total cost of ownership is sometimes dominated by the operation cost. If you can change that, and thanks to artificial intelligence, go towards an easy operation, not having so many operators taking care of your machine, then this would be a great advantage in the terms of total cost of ownership. Up to the final limit, because the bottom line is that AI will help, but will never be allowed to take a decision on a life-saving equipment. So at the end of the process, you always need a person, man or a woman, sorry, a human who is there and who can really, at the end, will push the button and take the responsibility of the treatment. And this interface between artificial intelligence and human intelligence is something that is still to be defined, a bit like automatic driving, actually. Okay, so another opportunity comes from additive manufacturing. So now so accelerators are actually an ideal application for additive manufacturing, because accelerators, you make small quantities of very precise and small equipment. So in particular, now we are trying to get more experience in additive manufacturing of metals, in particular of copper. Most of our accelerators are made of copper. This is our favorite metal. And you can see already here some attempts that were done in the IFAST project of building small linear accelerators completely with additive manufacturing. This is a complex radio frequency quadrupole that you see in this slide that usually is made with different machining, thermal steps, thermal treatments, brazing steps. So it's a process that can take months, and this can be just done in a few days, actually, of laser bed printing on a machine. And you see here an example. It's small for the moment, just a prototype of 40 centimeters, but in the next program, if approved, that is called a beta, we hope to be able to make a new one to be tested with beam. And this would open opportunities, because this type of radio frequency quadrupoles are used in basically all injectors for particle therapy. Synchrotrons is used in machines in Linux for radioactive production. So there are many ways, and there are also many other applications of additive manufacturing for accelerators. I have one slide on the other challenge, because we have seen that getting the maximum magnetic field is one challenge to make smaller accelerators, but also getting the highest possible electric field is another direction. There is work now on normal conducting linear accelerating cavities to reach 100 megawatt per meter. That is a lot. You see, it is very small, this type of structures. But there is also work on acceleration using laser and plasmas. And you see how much there was always a lot. There is always a lot of interest in the ideas of having the accelerator on a chip. It's a small chip that contains a grid structure, and then using exciting it with a terahertz laser, you can show that you can accelerate a few electrons. The problem is that, I mean, this is very exciting, very nice to see, but the problem is that you accelerate small quantities, small currents of beam, which is fine for medical applications because you don't need large quantities. But on the other hand, the problem is always to scale up this acceleration over a few centimeters to meters, not to speak of kilometers for the physics colliders. So I believe that there is still a long way to go until this technology can be scaled up in size to be used in medical field, but also could get enough stability to be used in the medical field, because we know how much stability and reproducibility are important for a medical machine. And in this case, there is nothing really more unstable than lasers and plasmas. We are really not yet there. So I don't think that in my lifetime I will see any application of these technologies, but it is worth mentioning them because this might be an opportunity for the long-term future. Okay, now I'm at the end of the first part of my seminar, and I go to the second chapter. So now we have some very nice technologies, a portfolio of nice technologies. How can we translate them into medicine? And this is a challenge. And we're not alone in this challenge because if it is part of a more general problem, that is advancing deep tech into the healthcare sector. Deep tech is disruptive, is innovative, is creative, and healthcare is conservative by nature. How can you make these two words to communicate? And this is a challenge, actually, because deep tech, if you look at the definition of deep tech, it is advanced, built on scientific research, and wants to solve global challenges, is our case, and often featuring high technical risk, long development cycles, and significant capital requirements before commercialization. This looks like the definition of particular accelerator technology. So we are really respecting all the qualities to be considered as a deep tech and to advance deep tech into the healthcare sector is always a concern. I start with a successful example, something that it's really a milestone is the new medical center being built in Caen in France, where they will commission, hopefully already this year, a superconducting cyclotron for carbon ion therapy and other ions. So it's a machine of about 7 meters in diameter that you see here. It's large, basically, the machine is small, but it extends over 3 levels. There is the radio frequency here in the cellar, the cyclotron, and then on the top there are the ion source after a thick layer of shielding, and then you have the beam lines going to the patient treatment rooms. So this is really the first time that a cyclotron is used at such a high energy and size for treatment. It's fully superconducting. But also what is interesting is that the cyclotron was initially designed by IBA in 2006. So it took 20 years to go from the drawing board to the construction. And it's about the time scale that sometimes you need for deep tech to go into the healthcare. And what is also interesting is not only to speak about the scientific parameters of this machine, but also the funding model, which is also very interesting, because they had to set up a company called Normandy Hadron Therapy that is jointly owned by the region of Normandy, is regional funding through their, I think, technology development agency of the region, the IBA company, and other public and private entities. So it's a complex structure that engages major public contributions and the expertise of a major player in the field like IBA. This was, I think, one of the reasons for the success of this initiative. Okay, so starting from the successful example, the most recent successful example, let's go to what could come in the future. So many of you know that we have been working a lot at CERN and in other labs on changing the favorite particle for treatment. You know, nowadays only protons and carbon ions are licensed for treatment. But what about helium that is just between the two? I mean, 2 protons and 2 neutrons. This was already treatment with helium was already started in Berkeley in the 70s, but then stopped. And there is a new interest now in using helium for treatment, mainly coming from Heidelberg, but also other medical centers that recently work with carbon ions are planning experiments with helium. Helium is an ion that allows that has much lower penumbra, lateral straggling with respect to protons, so it's much more precise than protons, laterally and longitudinally, because it has a thinner Bragg peak than protons, but at the same time doesn't have the fragmentation tail of carbon. So from the point of view of conformality, is absolutely superior, and also is a higher RBE that also helps for treatment. Of course, it does not allow to treat radioresistant tumors as carbon, but is definitely more precise in the treatment than protons. And the first clinical application has been now finalized at Heidelberg Ion Therapy. So, and an advantage is that you can make helium with a relatively small accelerator. And we have designed this small helix helium and light ion compact synchrotron machine that is only 33 centimeters in circumference, 11 meters is the lateral dimension, yes. And this is a machine that allows you to make, where is it? Here, yes. Design is being carried out at CERN under the coordination of Elena Benedetto from TerraCare. You can do full body therapy with protons and helium, some therapy with carbon. You cannot go to 30 centimeters penetration with carbon, but using carbon, you can go to 11 centimeters, so enough to treat many head and neck tumors. You can do radiography, mixing helium and deuterium beams, which is an interesting direction of making a mixed beam for radiography. And we are working on a flash type extraction. So this could be the accelerator within a facility with treatment rooms, and the linear accelerator at the same time allows for injection into a synchrotron and production of radioisotopes. You remember about coupling nuclear medicine and particle therapy. So this would be an excellent opportunity to work in both directions for cancer treatment. Helix can also be a starting point to go to a superconducting synchrotron, because the same lattice that has been developed for this helium synchrotron can be used if you replace the magnets with superconducting magnets, can be used for carbon ions. So then there are a few modifications required to the machine, for example, extraction for the higher energy and other components that have to be dimensioned for the higher energy. But basically, the lattice is the same, the dimensions are the same. And this type of superconducting machine could be a nice compact carbon ion, could be at the core of a compact carbon ion therapy facility using either CCT magnets, but limited in pulse repetition rate, or the new superferric magnets that I was talking before. Something similar is being planned in construction, so not completed yet in Japan. HIMAC, you see here bottom right, that is the layout of their facility using superconducting niobium titanium magnets. So if we go for this design, then we would definitely use either CCT magnets or superferric magnets. So basically, in a not so far future, carbon ion therapy will become commercial. At the moment, there are 3 designs on the table. HIMAC with their superconducting synchrotron, normal dihadron therapy with a superconducting, oh sorry, this is really a bad mistake, superconducting cyclotron. I correct it immediately because I don't want to have any cyclotron, yes. And then the third option is the Hitachi that is now building for for Mayo Clinic, a normal conducting, a large number conducting synchrotron. Do we have space now for a fourth European design, but with better performance with respect to the others in terms of dimensions, in terms of repetition rate, and last but not least of power consumption? Because we made a study that we have seen that it is superconducting synchrotrons for carbon. If you take normal superconductors, you don't gain much in energy efficiency, simply because you have to keep your machine cold during all night, waiting for the patients in the morning. So with respect to a normal conducting synchrotron, we don't gain. The only way to gain is to use superferric hybrid magnets, and then you can gain by a factor of 2 in terms of power consumption, which is absolutely important. I have now a few slides on other interesting directions for the use of accelerators. So flash therapy. The main road to use flash therapy is to use, full flash therapy in combination with electrons in combination with very high electron acceleration. So you accelerate a beam to 100, 200 MeV. So you don't have any bragg peak, but if the flash effect works, then you can really concentrate your dose on the tumor with respect to the surrounding tissues. At the moment, there are many competing projects to build the first electron flash machine. So there's a kind of a race to be the first. I don't know who will win this race, but there are 3 competing technologies that are characterized by different frequencies. So when you build a linear accelerator, the higher the frequency, the more compact and energy efficient it is, but more difficult it is to build and to operate. So the highest frequency that has been tried is the 12 gigahertz of CERN, of the CERN Collider Click. And this was an original collaboration between CERN, a French company, TERIC, and the Lausanne Hospital, CHUV. You can go down in frequency, it's a bit easier, 60 gigahertz, and there is an Italian collaboration around it with the company SIT and the University of Rome, or there is a standard conventional frequency of 3 gigahertz, where there is a lot of experience around, and this was the frequency originally chosen by Thales in collaboration with the Curie Institute in Paris. Now, the latest news are that also the TERIC company is looking at 3 gigahertz because the 12 gigahertz is considered too complex for installation in hospital environment, which might be an indication that sometimes for an hospital environment, we should not push for the highest performance accelerators, but we should push for the most known and, let's say, easy to use and operate accelerators. Okay, I have one more slide on boron neutron capture therapy, which is something that is getting more and more momentum, the idea of treating in particular brain tumors with neutrons that activate boron 10, in this case an isotope that produces alpha particles that kill locally the tumor when the boron is accumulating on the tumor. It's a short accelerator. It's very simple. You see there are 2 ways of doing it. Either a DC, high voltage, let's say basic accelerator, which is the direction chosen by the Helsinki University Hospital, which is the only one in Europe that at present has started treating patients with boron neutron capture, BNCT. Or there is the other direction of using a linear accelerator that has been chosen for the Caserta Hospital. You see it to the bottom right hand. In both cases, these are not simple accelerators because energy is low, but current is very high, and the beam power is very high. So this requires a lot of power. So the electricity to the plug is a concern with this type of facilities, as well as the activation. So the beam is a beam that activates a proton beam that activates or requires a lot of shielding. So these are concerns. But nevertheless, I mean, these challenges are known, let's say, are relatively easy to overcome. And these machines have a lot of, will be more and more used in the future. Something else that will be more and more used in the future are accelerators to produce radioisotopes. So nowadays, standard radioisotopes for imaging are produced by many cyclotrons. You see 1,700 cyclotrons worldwide. But there are now new frontiers that are accessible with new types of radioisotopes. And the next frontier is treatment with isotopes, in particular alpha emitters that can be produced by accelerators injected into the patient attached to antibodies, and then if they accumulate on the tumor, then they can kill the tumors. Here, the challenge is more on finding the right vector and in localizing your radioisotope exactly on the tumor, then on the production of the radioisotopes. Nevertheless, there will be, if all the clinical trials now ongoing are successful, there will be in the future a strong demand of compact accelerators for the isotope production that can possibly be installed in hospitals. And also here, we have an interesting design of a linear accelerator that is basically the same one that can be also used as injector for the therapy synchrotrons that you have seen to produce, for example, astatine. Astatine 211 is a fascinating isotope. It's the most unstable element in nature, the most unstable element in the periodic table. It can be created by, generated by a 28 MeV alpha beam on a bismuth target and can survive for only 7.2 hours. This is a half lifetime, so you lose half of the activity after 7.2 hours only. And this is a complicated technology, and we are now trying to develop a consortium, possibly also involving companies, to develop designs for future LINACs for production of isotopes, in particular astatine, with the participation of many interesting institutions in Europe. Okay, I'm coming close to the end, and talking again about ion therapy, I want to summarize where we are with three important initiatives, because, as I told you, more than the technology to build this type of accelerators, or let's say to transfer deep tech into healthcare, is not important really technology. What is important is the consortium, is to get enough critical mass, enough momentum to be able to push forward this technology and to make a first implementation. Then the others will follow, but the first prototyping is the real challenge. At the moment, we are working with three communities. One are the Baltic states that have the ambition of building a facility for cancer therapy and research with particle beams in the Baltics, so Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. They have selected the helium synchrotron as the best combination of cost, innovation, scientific reach, and treatment opportunities, and they will start this year the preparation of a feasibility study that will complement a technical design report that we produce at CERN to prepare a business plan and all the details for implementation in the Baltic countries. What is the challenge there? Is not the interest, are the priorities of the Baltic countries, because as you know, they have some worries with their neighbors, and at the moment, basically the message that they have got is that all funding now goes to defense, and there is little space left for implementing a major medical facility, although there is, of course, support for keeping on the study. So the study will be likely funded, so this implementation study, but for the moment, the real construction is not on the agenda, at least for this year. Instead, the TerraCare Foundation, it's one of our partners that is promoting the idea of CHEFs, of Clinical Helium Facility for Switzerland, to bring a facility, Switzerland, at the forefront of particle therapy and nuclear physics. So going beyond what is now done at PSI, that has been a pioneering laboratory in particle therapy, but now trying to build a new center for production of radioisotopes and for particle therapy. This is the idea. Their idea, so the idea of Ugo Amaldi of TerraCare is to base this on private, mainly on private funding, but seeking national and international support. And the third initiative that I want to mention, that is on the table since many years, is the CEIST, the Southeastern European Institute for Sustainable Technologies, a collaboration of countries in the Balkan region that now also includes Greece, which is geographically in the Balkan region, but not culturally, but they are part now of CEIST. And established in 2017, CEIST aims at building a cancer research and therapy institution in the region. These three initiatives now they feel they don't have the critical mass now to go for a fully fledged carbon ion therapy facility. And also they don't have the motivation, like for example, the Baltics, they don't have enough population for a carbon ion therapy. But they want to start with a helium therapy facility to get experience, to start to treat with the innovative type of particle, and then in some cases, like the CEIST, go possibly to the superconducting machine. For the CEIST, I want to show what I just received a few weeks ago, the concept, the vision of CEIST 2.0, which has been adopted is being adopted by the CEIST steering committee, you see, and from the beginning, they follow, let's say, the strategy that we have advised of a facility that is implemented in stages. It is very difficult, if not impossible, to get from the beginning the funding and the personnel and the support to build a large-scale carbon ion therapy facility. So one has to start in steps to build capacity, to build competencies, and also to show accountability and that you are able to make it. And this is actually the strategy for all the three projects that you have seen before: the Baltics, the Switzerland project, and CEIST. This is a picture that I've taken from this CEIST document, and you see the different stages are, first of all, an ion source, an injector test stand, very easy to build and to get experience. Then the linear accelerator and go to isotope production. Then one can add the synchrotron, starting a research program, and then go to clinical treatment with the synchrotron. At stage 4, then implement advanced concepts for treatment and flash therapy to the synchrotron, and only at the last stage go to a superconducting synchrotron with full carbon ion capability. The advantage of this type of approach with respect, for example, to a cyclotron is that this can be implemented in stage. So it is incremental, and this, I think, is a way of making it easier to accept to a political environment. So it's a compelling multi-year program that is endorsed by both CEIST and Switzerland, Chefs Amaldi and his Swiss project. So challenges. The first challenge is money, funding models, and long way to market. I have to draw your attention on the fact that this is hard tech, and this requires many years. So this is an example of applications of particle accelerators and the time that it took to go from the first proposal to becoming commercial. Commercial is the moment that you can buy an accelerator that does this type of job. You see, 22 years, 13 years, 67 years for carbon ion therapy, and this assuming that it was commercial in 2024, the first contract between Hitachi and Mayo Clinic, you see. For proton beam therapy, it's also very interesting, is 38 years, quite a lot. And if you look at this curve that you have seen before, you see that the principle was initiated in 1947. The first unit built exclusively to treat patients was in 1989, so 42 years later. After 6 years came commercialization, and then it took, you see, and this was the start of this slope here, and there is a change in the slope here. So there is a moment when the commercialization, at the beginning you have your early adopters, and then you go to market penetration. This is a clear step around 2012, and it was 17 years after, and it's 13 years ago. So it's a long time, and you need a long time before you can push this type of technologies to healthcare. They can be accepted, they can enter, they can penetrate healthcare. And this is nothing that we can do. I mean, and you need a lot of money to do it, and you need a lot of support over the long term. I mean, it's not that you have a funding for 1 or 2 years. You need some people really believing in you. And these are, let's say, the challenges. But this is my last slide, almost last slide. I start with opportunities. So particle therapy is there, I think, and will remain forever. This, I think, is clear point number one. Second is that after the success of proton therapy, society and market, I believe, are ready for the next step. That is a commercial carbon ion system with possibly helium as an intermediate step. And the advances is both particle accelerators and treatment modalities are converging towards systems that are offering greater effectiveness with reduced footprint. Challenges, number one is setting up the appropriate consortium. This is the keyword. We have to bring together public and private funding. Public is national, regional, and private companies, but also foundations to support long-term developments. So a foundation comes for a few years and then they go to something else. And okay, you consider maybe 10 years R&D and 10 years for construction until you have the first beam. So it's a long time support. And non-negligible technical risk. I mean, not that you will fail, but you can have delays and overcosts because of technical problems. This is something to accept. And stage development in this case definitely might help. Then you have to have a step to do research, and it is very difficult, if not impossible, to be recognized as a research infrastructure. Because if you look at the S3 roadmap, if you look at the health infrastructures, there are plants, environment, but there is really no health. So S3 supporting health, but there is no research on really healthcare systems. So health doesn't mean healthcare for our research infrastructures. Can we solve this problem? It's another question. Then you have the personnel problem. You need personnel to design, build the machines. And then you have to engage industry at the earliest possible stage. And of course, above all, you have to foster collaboration between the clinic and the accelerator communities. Only together we can solve the problems, not in our fields. And then I finish with a little advertisement to try to do a step in the good direction. There will be a school on accelerators or medical accelerators in Jurmala, Latvia in June. And many outstanding lecturers has conferred the participation. They are apart myself, they are all very good. And I invite you to register and participate if you're interested. And on this, I thank you for your attention, and I thank HITRIplus and IFAST for their support.